I just sort of, I mean, besides the cruel and unusual aspect of it, this was from the ages of 28 to 40 for Britney Spears.
Yeah.
And like I said, taking the personal implications away, thinking about it, even from like an artistic standpoint, like Kylie Minogue was 34 when she did Can't Get You Out of My Head.
Yeah.
Like, think of what we might have been robbed of.
Oh, yeah. I can't. I like can't make myself. It's too much.
It's a fairy tale.
Yeah.
She's a princess locked in a tower by an evil stepfather. Or
let's talk about someone else who's locked in something.
Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching American Crime Story Impeachment, episode 4.
The telephone hour.
Continues. It feels like we have picked up steam.
Yeah.
If several key things have happened. The tapes have been introduced.
Yeah.
The dress has been introduced.
Yep.
It appears Hillary Clinton is going to be a character on the show.
With only 3 episodes left.
Is there only 3?
I think it was only 7.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I was afraid this was going to be 10. And I was
it's 10. Sorry. I thought weirdly it was only 7.
I'm enjoying this. However, I am caught up. I am on board.
Yeah.
I understand.
Oh, yeah.
We've watched 4 episodes of Paula Jones aside, essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
So I got it. This was interesting. Well, it was interesting 2 ways, because number one, fucking Monica. Whew.
Yeah.
About halfway through, Will was like, I don't know, I'm kind of on Linda's side for the first.
Well, Linda fucking lays into her, and then that was when he said it, and I definitely agree. Although, I mean, I think there's something very uniquely traumatic about being a woman who's crazy in love, a young woman crazy in love. And it doesn't appear that this is the first time she's been taken for a ride by a man in a position of authority, which is even grosser. Ugh.
And there is another level to this in that, yes, when Linda finally snapped on her, we, the audience, were sort of like, oh, thank God, this bitch won't shut up. However, you have to keep in mind, Linda is actively deceiving her.
Yes.
So Linda is asking for this from her.
Yeah. And then she gets mad when she gets it.
Frustrated.
Yeah. I'll allow it, because Monica is very up and down, like down, deep in a depression hole. And then all of a sudden, now, he called me back.
But yes, and it's annoying and many things. But again, imagine somebody older and presumably wiser than you leaning into that, hanging on your every whim, every word, pushing you further. It's really gross and manipulative and abusive several ways over.
It just seems like she never stopped being manipulated in her whole life.
Mm-hmm. And
like from the age of 14, apparently, when a camp counselor tried to have sex with her and she said no, so he pulled it out. Ugh.
I honestly don't think that there is anything wrong with having older friends, having different friend dynamics.
Sure, of course not.
Found family, rah, we're all about it. However, if it's not healthy, if it's not kosher, if it's not above board, it's gross in its own right. And there's just this scene where she's having like a slumber party with this like woman twice her age. And it's weird. We've talked a lot about Monica's or Linda's motivations and stuff, because we don't historically really know or understand them. So the show is having to work with what it has. And I mean, I think that there are elements of Linda, especially the way that they're representing it, where she is enjoying this friendship. Mm-hmm. She is sort of getting... It's the Regina George's mother, like
sure, she's definitely getting something from it,
like
as
girlfriend,
well.
like
she's getting something from it as well, even if it just is a continued overinflated sense of her importance, because Monica makes her feel important, especially now that she knows that she like has something on Bill Clinton and she has something on Monica, and she like says at least once in this episode that she doesn't care that the press is going to like eat Monica alive. And I'm just sort of like, ugh.
Well, and I mean, she's been doing this for the first 3 episodes, but watching her sort of rewrite history in real time is really interesting. And Sarah's very good at it.
Oh, yeah.
And I do appreciate that the show is depicting all the different layers and all the different levels of hideous behavior and gross. Because when the story gets boiled down, you know, it's Monica's a slut and Linda's a backstabber and Clinton's
Philanderer.
I mean, take your pick. And the whole thing is bigger and more than that. I was unaware. I mean, there's an assumption, but I wasn't aware how many puppeteers were behind the scenes. Margot Martindale seems disgusting.
Yeah.
But
so good at it. I love her. I love her so much.
But I'm just saying Lucienne seems gross.
Yeah.
And everything's real on the nose. That's not really a criticism, but it's just you have Ayn Rand posters in the background.
It's not terrible. So I have to admit that I have been listening to a podcast called You're Wrong About, which is very good. They don't need me to plug them. They're doing okay. But they did one on Monica Lewinsky, and now I'm listening to the one about the Clinton impeachment specifically. I didn't realize how out of bounds this was in the whole thing, because he was supposed to be getting investigated for Whitewater, and then this happened and they got him. It literally is like getting caught for evading your taxes when you're a mob boss, and it's like, I murdered 12 people, but you got me for I didn't report my taxes correctly. And so it just is like, if everybody in this scenario were like 1% less stupid, this would have never happened.
Which, I mean, they
would have had this affair and they would have quit having this affair and then it would have gone away. None of us would have ever heard of Monica Lewinsky. They're all just too stupid.
The dread pumped through this episode of her just like a stone's throw away from New York working for Revlon.
100%.
And there's even that Blair Underwood scene, and he was so handsome and charming, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe she can get out of this.
And he slaps her on the ass on the way in the elevator.
And it's like, do you want human trafficking?
Yeah,
this is how you get sex cults.
It's so horrible. And I don't know, watching her totally unravel. First of all, Beanie Feldstein is so good.
I laughed out loud at the fucking nuts.
Yeah.
The getting to choose your own nuts. And I don't want any fucking nuts.
Yeah. That was super funny. Although I also, because they mentioned this in the podcast that I was listening to. And to be honest, it's a woman and a gay man doing very much like us, doing this podcast. And he is the one who's reading all of this information that came out in the Starr report. And so she just is like, honestly, I'm kind of impressed with Monica. She really seduced her way in there in an actual way, because she was most of the time when somebody is like, well, she's a seductress, it's just she wasn't, physically fighting off a man, so she must have been a seductress in this scenario. But it really sounds like Monica was the aggressor in this relationship that was really going for it and biffing interviews at the UN so that she wouldn't have to do it, and doing this and doing that and just trying to and it seems that she was relatively in control of her professional life. It was just that her personal shit was going off the rails, and I don't know. It was really, really funny. And I kind of got to the same conclusion where it's yeah, I guess that is kind of impressive. Go after what you want. But it gets so pathetic in this episode. So pathetic.
Well, and that's where I bring back up the point where it's especially with that scene where she hit the floor, because it was the nuts monologue or line, but also she spends a good chunk of this episode lying sideways across the bed, which if you ever need a sign that you're not in the best of places,
you're not doing good,
or just laying on the floor. But yeah, I mean, for half of this friendship, she's in an echo chamber of her own.
Well, it's just that it's Linda is feeding whatever emotion Monica's having at the time. So it's whatever Monica's already feeling, Linda comes in and doubles down on that. And
to try and get as much information.
So she's having higher highs and lower lows every single time. And it's effectively making her into a bipolar maniac who can't.
I mean, she's the star of her own show.
Yeah.
Which is addictive in its own right.
100%.
So yeah, it's. I just feel we should point out, nothing really came from it, but It does appear Betty just, it doesn't appear, it's pretty blatant. Betty just knows.
Yeah.
Which is interesting in its own right. I mean, when you're the president's secretary, it kind of comes with the territory, and she's trying to do her job while also like she just has every line is delivered with this.
Oh man, I did love that moment that they had before Monica got pathetic again, where she was like, she was like, he brought you this back from Martha's Vineyard, and like she like exchanged a gift or whatever, and Monica literally just goes, everything he buys me is so ugly. Which is hilarious. And then Betty's like, it's because he's from Arkansas. It just was like a nice little moment between the two of them. And then Monica started railing about working in the White House again. And it's like, the thing is she doesn't want to work in the White House. She doesn't give a shit about politics. And she doesn't want to be like, just the White House is irrelevant. She wants to work in the room with Bill Clinton again. It could be anywhere. That could be anywhere.
Did Abraham Lincoln live in the White House? Was the White House built?
Yeah, the White House was built pretty early.
When she mentioned that, I knew that there was a handful of presidents that did not live in the White House. And so when she cited that, I was like, was that pre-White House?
The White House was built in the 1700s, and Lincoln was late 1800s.
Okay.
Mid to late 1800s.
Was it Madison?
I don't know.
I did a report on Dolly Madison. Tell me you're gay without telling me you're gay.
Mary Todd Lincoln.
Dolly Madison's the one that saved the paintings of George Washington.
Yeah.
From the fire.
So,
and she threw great parties. Check out the drunk history.
The drunk history is pretty good. So yes, Abraham Lincoln did live there. I don't know. It's the fact that she believes so truthfully that she wants to be working in the White House. And it's like, I don't believe that.
It's so funny because when you were saying that, I was like, oh, like I would almost question you because I was like, I just thought she actually was passionate about the White House. Okay.
No, because if she was passionate about working in public service in that capacity, she would be thrilled to work at the Pentagon and the Department of Defense.
You can't get over that hurdle that they're treating the Pentagon like it's...
The Pentagon's great.
World famous.
She would have been over the moon to get that UN job. Mm-hmm. And she's just like, I don't want to work in the UN. It's just more of the same at the Pentagon. And I'm like, yeah, it's a highly illustrious position that would take most people like 6 months to a year to get approved to interview to work there. And it's just like killing me how much she's just like, no, I want to be in the White House. And it's like, no, you want to be literally anywhere that Bill Clinton is. The location is irrelevant to that effect.
Because actually speaking about her bad behavior, quote unquote, for lack of a better phrase, that's when the show at least is showing us that she gets his attention.
It does get his attention because she called Betty and screamed at her at home, which was not nice.
I was like, how is she getting these numbers?
I mean, if there's an emergency, they probably all have a phone tree or whatever. But then, yeah, he calls her back and is like, how dare you? But it's right. And by the end of it, he's like, are we friends again? Ugh. And he called her a good girl. Ugh.
We did also get confirmation that Linda was straight, like, plotting when she did the spreadsheet and all that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we assumed, but...
She's like, I have, this, I have that. I have an Excel spreadsheet that I...
documenting.
Okay. That's the other thing I learned in this podcast, which I think we already mostly knew, but they never had full sex.
Yeah.
And what it amounts to, essentially, is 8 blowjobs, only 2 of which were to completion. Ugh! I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
Shaped the course of history.
Although,
I mean,
it's not the first
Hail
time.
Is what it's time. Like,
it just blows my absolute
Cleopatra,
mind.
Helen of Troy, Guinevere.
It does not compute. I'm at the point where I'm like, so much of my life, my entire life, my childhood, my teens, my adult life.
There's the line in New Girl where she was like, everything I know about sex I learned from the Star Report.
Literally, so much of my life has been impacted by 8 blowjobs, only 2 of which were to completion.
I mean, same.
I just don't understand.
Relatable.
There was nothing about how many times she arrived, but I don't know. I like, it's one of the people on the podcast.
I was going to say, it's kind of making me like him more. Like,
well, no, it's actually grosser because he didn't feel it was cheating if he didn't come.
Okay, no,
and so
I
it's
know.
like disgusting.
He just, I don't know. He seems the Clive Owen of it all.
Sure, the Clive Owen of it. But that's the other thing too, is it's one of the things the other podcast said is it's just like, I don't want to know these things about these people. I assume they've all had blowjobs. And then it's just like, there's on another hand where at some point someone inferred or implied that like he wasn't getting that at home. So now I'm supposed to think that Hillary Clinton is a cold fish. And I'm just like, maybe if he weren't philandering all over God's creation, I don't know. It just like, it drives me absolutely batshit.
Yeah, so it did end with somehow, I mean, I heard the words, but like Linda got on the Paula Jones.
She's been subpoenaed as a character witness in the Paula Jones trial. And then Shooter McGavin, White House counsel, I assume, brought Bill a list of the potential witnesses. And he was like, one of them is Monica Lewinsky. I looked her up.
So how would Monica Lewinsky be a witness to Paula Jones?
Because they told Linda and Lucienne told the Paula Jones lawyers about Monica.
Oh, so more that Monica can corroborate.
Yeah.
Oh, got it.
But it's like, because Linda was like, it can't come from me. I have to be blameless in Monica's eyes. And so that basically, Bill then goes upstairs and just like gazes at Hillary while she's sleeping. Like, oh shit.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, a lot of more of the same, although it did feel like things were coming to a head, if you will.
I think things are going to proceed more quickly from here. And I have to warn you, it's the third episode from now. It is called The Assassination of Monica Lewinsky. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be when everything hits the news.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm not looking forward to that one.
I mean,
well,
I am.
I'm looking forward to watching Beanie do it, but it's a lot.
So, okay.
Yeah. We'll be back next week. Like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter. Give us money so we can keep doing this. I'm trying to keep it short and sweet. Let's do it. All right. Bye.